what we need to remember is the client does come first. I always say give them the Nordstrom experience, the one that you put the customer first and you want it to be a great experience. But most importantly is being proactive. Same with agents. You have to be on top of what's going on top of the files. You can't be always reactive. You have to be proactive.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the People's Real Estate Podcast. Today, we have a special guest joining us. Steve, we are excited to have you. Welcome to the podcast.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So, Steve, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? What do you do? And give us, your origin story.
So, my background, I am born and raised in this area. Actually, was born not far from where we are right now.
Okay.
Grew up in Montgomery County. Went away to college, came back for a year, and then went away to law school and came back for a year, and have finished law school in 1995 and passed the bar and have been practicing law pretty much the last 30 years, 28 years. The years go by really quickly, which I tell people when they're getting 30-year mortgages, it's going to blink and you're going to be done. So my background is I'm first generation Greek American. My parents, so I'm born and raised here, but grew up speaking Greek and English. And when I got to junior high, I decided to take a third language and studied Spanish. So that became, and pursued it all throughout junior high and high school, did the AP classes, went away to college, and as a major, I was studying international affairs and Spanish as a double major. Oh. And I spent my junior year in college at the University of Salamanca in Spain, which I always say is one of the best times of my life. Spain's amazing. Being a student there is even more incredible.
Yeah, shout out to Spain.
España.
Shout out to Spain, España.
España. So when I got out of, I was doing some international relations work for a year at National Institutes of Health, right here in Bethesda, like an exit away from here, and went back to law school. And then my third year in law school, you end up doing clinic programs where you really kind of start the practice of law. And because I spoke Spanish, they said, well, we need someone, does anyone here speak Spanish in this clinic that I was in? And I said, I do. So they put me at the Latin American Community Center, where I was working with indigent clients who couldn't afford legal aid. Worked with a supervising attorney who now is a judge in Delaware, who's the first Latina judge in Delaware.
What's her name? Give her a shout out.
Vivian Medina.
Okay.
Shout out. And I didn't even realize she was
Vivian.
A judge until one of my friends from law school posted a picture, and I was like, she became a judge. Wow. Which is great. But it was a great experience, but it was also coming, when you come from an immigrant community, no matter where you're from, whether it be, Italian, Greek, Portuguese, whatever, when you have this way of growing up and this understanding of the opportunities. So working with the Latin community has been very rewarding because I get it. I know what it's like to grow up in an immigrant household. Yeah. So a lot of times when my clients come in and they see that their kids who are teenagers come in, I was like, identify with that, so it's really, really rewarding. But anyway, what had happened was I started after I finished law school, came back, took the bar exam, was looking for work, and there was an attorney who was advertising that he needed a bilingual attorney. I was like, perfect, here I am, and started with him, and then went to another firm where I was doing a lot of litigation. And then the partner of the head partner had a friend who had a mortgage company. And he kept saying, you need to develop a title company within this law firm. We don't have a lot of Spanish-speaking attorneys. We have people who can translate. Yeah. We have people that are title agents, but we don't have very few attorneys who are actually able to conduct the entire closing in Spanish or explain things in Spanish. And the rest is history. They decided to open up within the firm a title company, which was Diamond Settlement Services up in Gaithersburg. And I started there in 2003. Very interesting market. It was a big refi market, So we opened up there, and that's where I got my feet wet. And I thought, I'd been practicing law. I'd been to court. I'd been representing a lot of clients. Been in and out of all the courts. And I thought, okay, well, this will be more. I was doing criminal law for a long time. I thought this will be a little bit more civilized, right? Real estate's interesting. Real estate is, I would probably venture to say that some of the criminal cases were less tough than some of the real estate skills there too. Doing Maryland with 2 offices, Maryland and Virginia, but we did Maryland, DC, and Virginia. And then about 4.5 years ago, almost 5 years ago, I got my current partners. We were talking about opening a title company, and we did it, and it's been 4.5 years, and sometimes I can't believe it's been 4.5 years, but it has been. It's flown by. So really, I've been in this business now 21 years in title, and I have it's been a roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
Ups and downs.
Yeah.
That's how you know everyone. And everyone knows Steve.
Yeah, everybody knows Steve.
When I started, I was the young kid on the block. Now I'm like the older guy.
It's funny how that happens.
Yeah. Also when you start doing a settlement and you realize you're representing someone who you handled their parents' closing
Yeah.
15, 20 years ago, you think, oh, this is full circle.
Yeah.
There's been no grandchildren yet that I've done, but I'm not that old. But yeah, it's been very interesting.
It's very rewarding. Let me ask you. So, sticking to KTL, right? What are some of the what separates KTL title from? Do you guys specialize in something specific? Like, what kind of separates you guys from the rest?
So, what I think separates title companies, we haven't redesigned the whole process. I think what it is service and organization. Having worked now 3 or 4 different title companies in my life, they vary in terms of how they handle the files. Really, our business, like real estate, is customer service.
Exactly.
We're not saving lives. What we do is important, but I think what we need to remember is the client does come first. I always say give them the Nordstrom experience, the one that you put the customer first and you want it to be a great experience. But most importantly is being proactive. Same with agents. You have to be on top of what's going on top of the files. You can't be always reactive. You have to be proactive.
Exactly.
And guiding people through issues. Remember something in life. There's certain things that are the most traumatic things, or or not traumatic, I would say, but most important things. It's like birth, marriage, death. Buying a house. Buying a house, we might do this every day, but the average person probably buys 1 to 3 houses in their whole life.
Yes.
So the experience of going through this can be overwhelming, and I think on both sides. And you have to guide it and remember that these are people, and you have to have some level of compassion for them and understand that they're looking to you to make this experience smooth.
Yeah.
Pleasant.
Yeah.
That's another thing. They shouldn't be a bad experience. I mean, right now, it's so tough getting mortgages and finding houses. When they come to the table, that should be the time that they can breathe and be like, okay, this is complete now.
Yeah.
Let's make this a very pleasant experience. And that's really what we try to achieve. And in addition to that is post-closing. A lot of people are like, oh, you're done with closing? See you never. See you maybe.
See you.
Yeah.
It's really answering those questions.
Yeah.
You become a sense of people trust you and they come to you when they have questions. The reality is, and you guys probably see this with your clients, there's a lot of scams going on out there.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are getting these crazy post-closing emails, phone calls, letters. I tell people to call me if they have a question on them.
Well, talk a little bit about that, Steve. Let the people know like some of the things that that if you are in the process or are planning on purchasing a home in the near future, what are some of the real estate scams that you've seen or
Okay, first scam is the IRS does not have your cell phone number. Okay, let me just, if the IRS is calling you on a cell phone number, saying you owe them $20,000, and if you don't pay that in the next 2 days, they're going to file a lien against. No, that doesn't happen. Okay, so first, be careful of those. The post-closing scams, and there's one that is a legal scam. And I know it's an oxymoron to say legal scam, but it's somewhat of a scam, but it's not illegal.
It's like a loophole.
Right. There is people purchase the house, and then once we get the deeds recorded, which we do right away, we get those on record as soon as possible. There's a company that sends them a letter saying, it's courthouse reporting, I think. It sends them a letter and says, you must get this certified copy of your deed, that you need it. And $145 used to be like $85, and it's a legitimate company, and people pay it, and they get a copy of their certified deed. You don't need a copy of your certified deed. And if you ever did, it's $25 from the court to get a certified copy. And I don't know anyone that ever needs one.
Yeah.
Usually, once you're recorded on record, you're recorded on a record. It's on every database. So I don't know of anyone that really needs any certified copies. But people do it. They fall for it. But they are doing a service, so it's not illegal.
Yeah.
You just have to watch those things. And the other latest thing that's been going on is that a client that contacted us and said, I got this bill, from my water bill, but I've been paying every month. And I go, you don't pay water bills every month or every 3 months. So there was a company that was kind of intercepting and setting these payment plans. And people were not paying a huge amount. They're paying like $20, $30 a month, but doing it for a year.
Yeah.
And
to the amount of people they probably doing it to, it adds up.
You know what I say is the criminals keep getting smarter.
Yeah.
Steve, and on that point, I would assume that, especially with you as the title company, usually handling escrows and large sums, usually dealing with electronic wires.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of this gets communicated sometimes through email. And I'm assuming that's another big one in your industry or in your side of the industry. Yeah.
Wire fraud is at its all-time high.
Yeah.
We've actually, a lot of companies, we've implemented certain systems to try to avoid it through the underwriters. But, it's crazy what's been going on. A lot of times what happens is, and agents are very susceptible, especially if they're using Gmail accounts rather than using like a certain account. Gmail's highly hacked all the time. So what happens is the criminals out there, they start to see your email chain. And then they create like another email that looks like yours and starts communicating with the client and starts to build conversations like, hey, don't forget with settlement, you're going to need to have your ID. Yes. And don't forget about this and don't forget about that. And they start going back and forth.
Under the radar, very under the radar stuff.
Very, very, normal conversations you would have with your client. And then they'll say, oh, by the way, here's the revised wiring instructions. We need you to wire, your $20,000 over to the company. And people do because they've built this level of trust. I always state, do not wire anything until you've called first and verified it. I encourage every, real estate agent to just to have that conversation up front with your client saying, look, there's a lot of scams out there. You got to be very careful. We have to protect ourselves and protect you.
Yeah.
Because we've had it where people have come in and be like, oh, I wired this money. And I'm like, where'd you wire it? And then they show me. I go, that's not our wiring instruction. They go, where did this come from? And they pull up the email. And so what they will sometimes do with the emails is even if we're involved on the chain of that original email, they'll mirror emails that look like ours. But I said there's certain things like, the wire instructions are going to like Bank of America in Florida and other companies' name. I mean, there's some kind of things out there that are like, red lights to like, whoa, keep back.
And the email address will be slightly different.
Man, but look, I've seen some of these emails.
They look good. They look legitimate.
It's like they do a good job. Man.
They're perfecting their craft.
Yeah.
The worst case is they've also hit a lot of the title companies where they'll do fake payoffs from banks and stuff, and they'll get them over, and they've been modified. There's different systems that are in place now to kind of verify those. But it's been a huge, wire fraud. I think we had a meeting with First American, which is one of our underwriters. They said over $300 million was lost last year in wire fraud.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah,
that's
a lot of money.
Change. It's
and it's crazy because the source of the money, it's people's money, people's savings.
That's it. Like, I understand when sometimes people, might go after some huge bank, but I'm like, you're going after someone's savings. This is
Yeah.
who's worked there, 20 years to put away this $40,000, and you just
Terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, it's gross.
Yeah,
It's gross, but
it is.
it's what's existing out there.
Yeah.
And then I think because it's such the type of crime it is, I'm wondering what these people are even thinking, because it's one thing if someone robs someone, I guess, but when they never see the person, there's this level of like, oh, they don't really get.
Yeah, there's
really
this
harming.
disconnect.
No victim.
They don't
Yeah.
really realize that there's a victim, and they always think that the bank's going to bail them out.
Yeah.
They don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not in
They
that
don't.
situation.
I had one client say $6,000, but that's all they had, and they were heartbroken. Because the agent's email had been intercepted and they sent it to the wrong place.
Man.
So yeah, it's really it's horrible to hear, but it happens every single day.
So there you go. When you're in the middle of one of these large number transactions, pay attention to the emails. If anything looks off, I like to verify and call people. Hey, you sent me this email. This is true.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you just never know, man. People get really good at this technology.
Yeah. I always tell we always tell people, like, call, like you said, Steve, call the title company, make sure that the money is going and the information is going where is correct.
Well, KTL does that every transaction.
Yeah.
They're phenomenal at that.
Yeah.
They say, no. You could, we'll share the information, but they have to call to verify right before they send the money.
Well, it's also good business. Let's be realistic. I mean, these are your clients. You want to basically, and for some reason, agents these days, I find a lot of the agents are scared of their clients, and they cower down. And I go, they've hired you for a reason.
Yeah.
They need you to be the person there.
Thank you, Steve.
Gotta be in the front line.
and says, this is what you need to do. People want to be told what to do the correct way.
Yeah.
Especially
They don't want to be like, and it's so funny. People, I call on certain agents and ask, I need stuff from your client, and they get all nervous. And I was like, I go, I'm like, I call them and I say, hey, I need this. And they're like, sure, here it is.
Yeah.
And, just explain what you need.
Yeah.
And explain that the process also protects them.
Yeah.
That's the whole point, right?
Yeah.
It also protects them.
Yeah.
And Steve, it's funny you say that. So it's a segue. When I'm a buyer, I don't know anything, right? New to the process. So I met the agent, I've met the lender, and now the agent says, well, you need to maybe leave your deposit with the title company or the title company. Now we have a ratified contract. We're going to send that to the title company.
Yeah.
Right.
So on let's say I'm, like I said, I don't know what's going on. In very layman terms, exactly what is the title company
That's,
and what
that's actually.
I was gonna say that. But good thing you brought it up.
No, the reality is I'll never forget the firm that I was with, and when they started their title company. I went to work for it, and one of the partners who I'd been working with very closely, she was head of criminal, brilliant criminal defense attorney, brilliant. She said, what's a title company?
Yeah, exactly.
So, this isn't something that... That's a good question, because here she was, a partner, very well-educated woman, very well-respected in Montgomery County in criminal law, and didn't know what a title company was. Mm-hmm. So, in a rough sense, a title company is an escrow company. It's the intermediary between buyers and sellers in the whole transaction. We are the independent third party that does the transfer of the real estate transaction. So here's what basically happens. You have a ratified contract. Buyers and sellers come to terms, have a ratified contract. They send it over to the title company, us, for instance. Okay? Our job at that is we open up a file. You probably hear in all those real estate shows that you watch, like $1 million, they're opening up escrow.
Yeah.
That's another. We don't have that term in Maryland, but it's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's it varies from state to state, but in general, title company, escrow company, you open up a file. A lot of times, the earnest money deposit, which is the deposit you give in the contract, can either go to one of the real estate agencies or a title company. Most people are preferring the title company because it is a neutral party.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So they open up escrow, open up a file. We then, first thing we do is order title, and from the court, whatever jurisdiction they're in, and we get what's called a title abstract. And the title abstract is basically the whole thing on the title. It has the whole history of we verify, number one, that we have the correct owner. Because let me tell you, sometimes you guys, I don't know if you've had a few of these transactions. I get contracts in, and I see the seller is Joe Johnson. Mm-hmm. Well, on public record, it's Eleanor Smith. Mm-hmm. I mean, usually it's, well, what happened? Did they just purchase? Like, what's the disconnect? And sometimes we find issues where the actual person trying to sell the property doesn't own it.
That's gonna be tough, Steve.
Yeah.
It happens.
How can you sell something
it
that's not
happens.
yours?
You know, I've always said, like, we could create a reality TV show sometimes called The Title Company. And it would knock this housewives thing off the map because we're you know,
High drama.
we're like, yeah, it's pretty, it can be crazy. No, the reality is that we open up, we pull the title, we review it to make sure that everything's in there. And then the other thing is we need to make sure all liens and judgments are cleared before we transfer the property. So we also reach out to all buyers and sellers so that they have to furnish their information to us because we need to do this transfer. You know, and that's really, can I be honest, that's like one of the hardest parts because getting information from people is like, even other listing agents, you're like, hey, I need this information. Oh, I'll get it to you. I'm like, don't you have it? You know, I mean, you're communicating with these people. We pull the information, we get the payoff information, we verify their socials, which we do take social security numbers. And I've had people say, I don't want to give it to you. I'm like, it doesn't matter. We have to.
Yeah.
We have to report this transaction. Everything over like 10,000, you have to report to the IRS, which we do every case, even if there's not very many things that are under $10,000. We just do every case to the IRS to let them know what's being transferred. We pull that together. We then, depending if there's a loan on the property, we have to prepare what's called a title binder and send it over to the lender to let them know that we can insure the transaction. And this comes back to what we really do. You know, we do transfer the title, but we're also insurance agents in a way. We sell title insurance. And which, by the way, is probably one of the most important things you'll ever get in your life.
What's title insurance, Steve, for
Title
those
insurance
people?
basically is insuring the actual title of the property. So what happens is there's two policies that can be issued. If you have a lender, you got a loan on the property, they're going to require that loan be insured to make sure that they have clear title on the property. There's also the owner's policy, which is technically, by law, optional. So when people say things optional, they think, do I really need it? I'm going to tell you right now, you need it. Okay? Kind of like car insurance. Do you know in the state of Maryland, when you get insurance on your car, you're only required to have liability, not full coverage. Do you know anyone that would buy a new car and not get full coverage?
No.
Not many.
The same thing. So in many ways, it's like this, the owner's policy. It covers them for the life that they have the property. You know, sometimes people want to cut corners and save a little money. I always say, be careful and don't be penny wise and pound foolish. You know, this is one of the most important things, the most biggest investment of your life. You want to make sure you have clear title to the property and it's properly insured.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to tell you, I review titles and things get missed all the time.
Yeah.
I have one now where the owner, I said there was a previous lien from the previous owner, but when they purchased the property, they decided to waive title insurance. Guess what? That previous owner's lien is now their responsibility. And it's like a few $1,000s, but
still.
it would have, I think, more than that. You know? So,
A few $1,000s could be the difference for somebody.
I mean, a claim itself can cost you.
No, I understand. Like in the course of a purchase transaction, you want to save some money. That's just not the place where you want to save it, right?
Yeah.
Title insurance. So the way I look at it, Steve, is just from a simple terms, right? Like you said, the lender, right? Like when you borrow from the lender to buy a house, the lender's going to insure the title. Why wouldn't you do it?
Right.
Yeah.
I've had some loan officers
you know what I mean?
say, some loan officers say, oh, well, you know, it's optional. I said, okay, yours. I go, why are you making them purchase to insure you?
Yeah.
But you don't want them insured.
Yeah.
You know, So this is something that comes up often because a lot of people are, you know, they're penny pinching, and you know that makes sense.
Yeah,
of course.
You know, you should.
Makes
you know,
sense.
I said, but it's one thing to cut coupons and go to the store and like, buy stuff on sale, but there's certain stuff you just need protected on.
Yeah.
So we basically, this is what we do. We sell the title insurance, and they get the title insurance policy at the table. And I said, listen, this is what's going to allow you to sleep well at night. Because, you know, sometimes you look at it and you're like, they're bringing in, you know, they got a loan on the property, but they're still putting money into it.
Cool.
You know, I said, look, you've put 40, 50, 60,000 into this transaction, which is hard-earned money. You want this protected.
Yeah.
You know, the worst case scenario is people that then go to try to sell a property or something else comes up on the property and, they're not protected.
And usually it's for a few $100s, right, Steve? It's not. We're not talking thousands of dollars.
No. It's
You know what I
actually
mean?
it's palpable.
Yeah,
It's not crazy. It's not a crazy amount, and it's really, I think, one of the most important things you're going to purchase. I always say this is one of the most important documents. Put it in a safe place. And I said, if you ever lose it, don't worry, because we keep a copy of it here.
Yeah.
But it's very important because so many things can come up. There's so much that has happened within the real estate market. There's misrecordings, there's liens, there's people, you can only go back so many years and see, like, if something was done a few years before incorrectly. I had one where the guy got a letter that somebody was filing a quiet title claim on his property, that they were going to try to take over the property. And he said, what do I do? And we looked at it because we'd closed him a year or two before. And it wasn't that transaction. It was about 5 years prior to that. There was a sale, and there were 3 owners, and one of the guys said that's not his signature. He was out of the country when it happened.
Wow.
We wouldn't have known. We didn't do that transaction. It was recorded properly, so it was in the chain of title. But it was. These are all. I could probably spend about 4 hours, 5, 6
Going
hours,
through all the
horror stories.
Yeah.
It's why. Yeah, don't risk it.
Yeah.
Why risk
Don't risk
it, right?
it. I mean, it's hard-earned money. Like, save your money. Make sure you're protected.
Quick question, Steve, just on a curiosity note. When you said you were a criminal defense?
Correct.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Yeah. So I did my first. I was doing general litigation, and because I spoke Spanish, I ended up working with one of the partners of the law firm who handled the criminal section, and a lot of it was all throughout the area. It was interesting. It was really fun for the first several years, and then it starts to weigh on you. It's you're dealing with some heavy stuff. I mean, the majority were, dozens and dozens of DWI cases, small theft cases. Most of the criminal cases somehow kind of involved drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
I'm being serious.
Yeah.
I would
People
assume
were doing it.
A lot of DUI.
Yeah.
There was a level of domestic violence that we saw, and actually one of the biggest things we saw was a lot of statutory rape cases.
Wow.
And what I mean by that is especially prevalent in the Latino community, where you have a lot of people that come in let's say El Salvador, for instance. It's not the age, it's the development of the child. So you have some of these 15, 16-year-old girls who, by the way, look like they're 27. And then they're with a guy who's maybe 21, 22. I mean, it's not a huge...
It's not a huge gap.
But if you're under 16, it's considered stat. And sometimes it was relationships that everyone was fine with in the family. And then something went wrong, and someone reported it, and this guy got in trouble. Most of it was very consensual.
Yeah.
So we saw a lot that was very prevalent.
And let me ask you that, because I don't know, I don't know much about stuff like that. But in a case like that, what ends up happening? Because you say, let's say it's consensual, but it's in the eyes of the law. It's
exactly
what happens with those cases.
There was one case I'll never forget. The girl was 15 and a half, almost 16, and he was 21, I think I remember. And they were they were together, and he was actually living with her at her parents' house and working with the father. And then the father wanted him to invest in a company with him. The guy's like, no. They kind of had a disagreement, and he went and reported him that he was with his daughter.
Petty.
Yeah. And the guy basically, when push came to shove, the law is the law. Yeah. It was, it was very tragic. He ended up, I'm not sure whatever happened to him. I know that he didn't go to jail.
He got deported.
He did, well, later on, because what happened is they changed the law. They agreed to reduce the sentence to under a year. So at that point, it would make it deportable. But they retroactively changed the law, and I think he might have ended up getting deported. And again, we saw a lot of this.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of. Not everything was pleasant.
Yeah.
What your job as a criminal lawyer is really to, it's not like you're defending. People say you're defending criminals. I'm like, no, I'm defending people. People that have gotten themselves in a bad situation, and made some really bad choices and bad mistakes. And I think we've all in life have made bad choices and bad mistakes. You know, we're all human, you know, I mean, if you keep repeating it, it's a bigger problem. But, you know, a lot of times there were people that just really made a bad choice and, you know, that bad decision, and they were just being represented. A lot of it is really mitigating. Rather than having, you know, several of them went to trial, but a lot of them was really like plea deals and working out, trying to get the best offer for your client. And that was working with the state and trying to come up with something that every party agreed to.
Have you ever found yourself, like you say, your job was kind of defending criminals, quote unquote, right?
Defending people
People.
who got into trouble.
Okay.
Good people
Yeah.
made bad
Yeah.
mistakes, I always
Yeah,
say.
exactly. So did you ever find yourself in a situation where the person, because again, I don't know anything about how this goes. I imagine it's like, okay, I committed a crime and I need somebody to defend me, right? And do I tell you what I did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's attorney-client privilege.
Okay.
So let's say right now, not on camera we do, but let's say you wanted to tell me something, and if you handed me money and said you're representing me, you could tell me anything, and I have to go to the grave with that. I can never disclose that.
What was your difficult? Did you ever did anybody tell you they did something really bad and then you
He
just
just told you he can't tell you.
No, I'm saying like I'm
No,
not
no,
telling him
it
to
was-
tell
I
me,
know,
but
right.
like,
No, I
like
mean, you
did you ever have like a battle in your mind like this?
Like a conflict of interest.
Yeah, conflict. This person is really bad, but I have to
Do my job.
do my
Yeah,
job.
And I think of the Richard Gere movie back. What was it? What with Andy Norton and Richard Gere? You guys are too young.
Is that
for
Primal
that.
Fear?
Primal Fear, and or something like that. And where at the end he realizes his client's guilty. I never had one of those, you know, cathartic moments or
Okay.
something like that. But I did have, you know, listen. You realized. I mean, a lot of times I could tell when a client was lying to me. It's like, really, I've heard this before. You know what I mean? You're like a 5-year-old lying.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, and a lot of times is you just really try to help these people through situations. And some people were just simply one time made a bad mistake too. Some I thought they're just never gonna rebound. And I remember this one guy got caught in a stolen car. Second time he got caught in a stolen car. He goes, well, I was with my friends. I said, you need new friends.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you need new friends. And finally, like, he got a third time. I go, look, come on.
What do you want me to
Like,
do?
you're in the wrong. Like, you're not.
It wasn't me, Steve.
Yeah.
Not this time.
I just think, I got in the
I
car,
promise you it wasn't me.
And I got in there and I said, okay, these are your friends, and did you know they had a brand new Jeep Cherokee? And when they pop the, I learned all this stuff. Like,
Yeah.
like apparently to steal the car, they pop something with the key, and then, you know, before they had keyless ones, and then they would, I mean, it was very evident.
Wire it,
This is
like
why,
hot
like,
wire.
yeah, I mean, you really
They taught you how to
realize-
hotwire a car, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't learn, but I couldn't figure it out. But,
Yeah.
see, but it was one of those things where, like, come on, you know, you're just not gonna you're gonna end up in the wrong place.
Yeah.
And then you see the success stories. You see people that have gone down the bad road, and they've, you know, if you represent them correctly and get them into the right program, sometimes, you know, I saw one become hugely successful in his life, and that was rewarding to have been the attorney that helped turn that around. Not everything's a success story, and some people are never going to get better.
Yeah.
And some people never get the help, and they remain addicts, or they remain. You can't save everyone, but I think, you know, if you can make that difference in one person's life,
Yeah.
it goes a long way.
Yeah.
Nice.
It goes a long way.
Yeah. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I always.
Yeah.
I'm here to
me,
answer them.
me, I'm
Because if not, I'm gonna just keep shooting them at Steve. You know.
Because, you know, I'm curious. I ask everybody, you know, especially when they're local. So you said you grew up close to here?
I did. I grew up not far from here.
Okay.
Like Potomac, Rockville.
Okay.
in there.
So like and I always ask you, like the elementary school, the
went
middle
to-
school, the high school still around?
Yeah, actually, most is still around. Still around. Like, is it that old?
Well, they rename
No,
them
no,
sometimes.
right. That they're doing that all the time now. So I, funny, about 5 minutes away from here is St. Luke's on Colesville, where I went to.
Oh, okay. I know where
That was my nursery school, so I still go drive by there. You know,
Across
And
from
then
the new Blair.
not near the old Blair. Near the old,
oh, okay,
across
it's
from
over
Mrs.
there?
K's Toll House is where it is, right?
Oh,
So,
okay.
Yeah, that's where my education started.
Okay.
Okay.
And then my family moved to Potomac when I was about 5 or 6, and I went to Georgetown Hill Elementary School. which is not there anymore. It's become a private school.
Okay.
And then I did Herbert Hoover Junior High, which was called junior high then, now called middle school. And I was at Winston Churchill grad.
Okay.
I'm with the Bulldogs.
There you go.
Yeah.
Shout out the
You know,
Bulldogs.
Miss K Stollhouse isn't there anymore, right?
I was there the other day. It's now called Xenia Cafe. It's pretty good.
Did they keep so it's still a restaurant?
It's
They
still
kept the
really
whole-
nice, actually.
Yeah.
Great little place.
I've never been there. I heard
It's
that's
really
the best.
Great happy hour, guys.
I heard that's one of the best.
Shout out to
around.
them. Great brunch, great happy hour, great place to go.
Yeah, shout them out, Steve.
Yeah, because there's not a lot around
No.
this part of the county. By the way. Yeah, I mean they could really spruce up a little bit of nightlife around here.
Yeah. Okay.
So after that I went to my undergraduate at James Madison University.
Okay.
Who did very well this year in college basketball. So we're really excited. The Dukes. And then I came back, worked for NIH for a year, and then I went to Widener Law School in Delaware, in Wilmington. So I went south for 4 years and then north for 3 years. And then settled back and got married a year out of law school.
Okay.
Have 2 kids who are now, one's in University of Maryland and one is in grad school at UC Berkeley in California.
Wow. Okay.
Wow.
Impressive.
Nice.
Good for you, Steve.
Yes.
And
nice.
Steve, your wife, she's
My wife is Greek too. Yeah.
Oh,
so
okay.
we had the big fat Greek wedding. Literally, like people talk about the movie. I'm like, yeah, it's my life.
Really? You have a big
I
family
have
like that?
oh yeah. I mean, it's like I go the movie.
Because I love those movies. I don't know about the third one, but the first two.
Yeah, the third one wasn't too good. The first 2 I really liked. I said the only thing they go, did they get it wrong? And I said, yeah. And they go, what did they get it wrong? I'm like, we cooked the lamb in the backyard, not in the front yard. But we do that, you know. In Greek Easter, we roast lambs in the backyard, and we do that all the time. Families, yeah, there's always cousins around. You know, there's we joke around when I go out with like friends, like work friends, and they're like, "Oh, how do you know them? How do you know them? Oh, they're Greek, or they're a relative of mine, or they're my godparents' son, or something like that." Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, I grew up in the Greek community here.
That's dope.
Yeah, that's
area,
no. Man, have you seen those movies? No.
I've heard of them. I haven't seen them.
So to me, I really like those movies, especially the first one. Right?
Yeah.
And dude, it's like the same thing. It's
Yeah.
like, you know, you have the La Tia that's loud. You know what I mean?
You know, when you grow up ethnic, you get it.
Yeah, exactly.
You get it, and it's funny. You know, I've been to friends of mine's like Indian weddings and stuff, and I watch the same thing. I'm like, I can tell who's who.
Yeah.
You know, my area I also grew up in a heavily Jewish neighborhood. Same thing, very ethnic family. It's just everyone, you know, kind of. You grow up with a lot of people in your life.
Yeah. It's just like Italians.
Italian, same thing. Italian, Jews, Greeks.
Yeah.
And then you watch. You know, then I see the newer, like, you know, the Vietnamese community.
Yeah.
I see a lot of Bengali. We have a huge Bangladesh community in this area. We do a lot of closings with them. Bengalis and the Latino community, Ethiopians. And Latinos. So, you know, a lot of times I have this, when I watch the family come in for a closing, this is really probably one of my favorite things that I do as a title attorney is, you know, interestingly enough, with ethnics, they bring their family. You've seen the clients here.
You know
the
it.
whole,
You
and
see
they
me,
bring
Steve,
them.
come in with like 10 people.
There's 10 people.
Steve's like, well,
I go, who's signing?
Who's signing? One person.
comes in. But you know, everyone's there, and you know, you have this
Support.
Yeah, but it's a little bit more than that.
It's like a milestone, right? Like
you see your own family and your own past in that.
Yes, yes.
And you know, and you see like the parents who are from, you know, like came here from El Salvador, and you see the kids, many of them were born here, and you see that as they're talking, they're buying this house because they want the kids to go to this school and this, and you just see that same life story. Like I see my life story, you know, where everything was for the kids. And, you know, you realize what some of these parents have gone through to come here to this country for a better life, to give their kids a better life.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of times you can just see it. You know, one man was beaming with pride yesterday or the day before for closing. His daughter was finishing up college, and his other daughter was going to start college, and she was the first college graduate in their family ever. You know,
Huge,
and
man.
and they said, you know, we put off buying a house for many years because we just wanted to make sure that we got the school paid
That's
first.
amazing.
And you see that story. So when you've lived it, and you know, under my family, my wife's family, like being kids of immigrants, you really feel this kinship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a perfect word.
And I just, you know, I mean, I looked at the kids and I was like, one day you're going to be in my, one of them wanted to be an attorney. I said, one day you're going to be in my case and you're going to see another family come in like this.
Wow.
And I go, remember this.
Yeah.
Powerful stuff. But no, what I love with Steve, right?
But it's the reality. It's, you know, and I guess when you do grow up ethnic and you grow up with this, you also don't take it for granted.
Yeah.
Okay. This is my biggest fear, they say, of raising kids and a family is, will they appreciate what we appreciated?
Yeah.
You know, we say, I think every generation says this. Will they get it because it's been a little easier for them?
Yeah.
I mean, listen, my road was easier than my parents' road.
Yeah.
My kids' road was easier than my road. But what do they say? Like, one tough generation breeds a generation that's less tough. You know, you know, I mean, what are their big issues and what were the big issues that we had? You know, and that's my biggest is to understand that all what is offered here in this country.
Yeah.
You know, and I find immigrants the most patriotic Americans.
Yeah.
Why? Because
hilarious.
no,
No,
because we
I agree.
appreciate
The irony.
everything,
Yes.
Yeah.
every opportunity. You know, they realize that it can be gone tomorrow.
Yeah.
They also realize that there's parts of the world where there is no opportunity.
Yeah.
You know, things were bad. I mean, you know, when someone said to me, "Oh, you're Greek," you know, that's Europe, and I said, "Well, you know, my parents didn't come from a 5-star resort in Mykonos. I mean, they were like, you know, the families come from poor villages. This is like in the 1940s and 50s and 60s.
Most likely why they left.
They left because there was nothing.
Yeah,
And no running water. I mean, the country is transformed. You're going to see a different El Salvador.
Oh, of
in
course.
20
yeah.
years.
Of course.
And the people that are coming from El Salvador now, that are coming from like the cities, were nothing like people 30 years ago, 40 years ago,
Nope.
Exactly.
where there was like a war and
There's less struggle.
There was like coming from places where there's no running water and
No
I mean,
electricity.
part of the world, and you know, so I think it's you know, the world is changing obviously very, very fast, but you know, people coming here and realizing there's so much opportunity, and you know, we criticize our country, we criticize things here and there, and there's a huge political divide obviously in here, but I think in general, being here and knowing that there's a lot of opportunity, and you want to take charge of that. You know, you don't feel entitled.
Yeah.
You know, that's my biggest fear, that the younger generation, I think, with their entitlement.
Yeah. Well, America does that, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I see.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, with the generations of immigrants and stuff like that. Like they start losing a little bit of the culture, a little bit of the language.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A little,
Stop appreciating everything that they have.
Yeah.
You know, when I see people, they're like buying their first house, and I always ask them. You know, I think what I really enjoy in the settlements is getting to meet the people and talk and hearing their story.
I can tell.
Because I think their stories are interesting. And I said, you know, when did you come here? You know, how long have you been here? They're like, oh, I came 5 years ago, 6 years ago. And I said, really? I said, you know, here you are in your, you know, your work permit, or, you know, the different programs that are allowed to. They're buying their first house, or maybe they're a citizen or a resident. And I said, you know, there's a lot of Americans born and raised here who have never bought a house.
Yeah.
And you're living, this is part of, I think buying a house is the epitome of the American dream.
Yep.
It means you've really, you know, and it's amazing. They feel like, oh, they're humble about it. I'm like, don't, you know, this is a big accomplishment.
Yeah. No, it's funny you say that, because for me, you know, it's the duality, right, Steve? Like I can see it from both sides, right?
Right.
So I get on TikTok, and the average, you know, young American is saying the American dream is dead. The American dream is dead. And then I'm working with people that are living the American dream. You know what I mean? And still say, oh, like, I appreciate it. Like, you know, there's opportunity here still in America. So it's like, it depends what lens you're looking at it from.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree. I think, you know, exactly. You taken the words out of my mouth. I think it is, the reality is, this expectation, it's supposed to come to me.
The entitlement.
You know, and I said to somebody once, you know, they were complaining about, they got some rejections and applying for a job. And I said, okay, a couple of rejections, you're going to get a lot more. this is part of life. And I said, no one ever became successful sitting on a couch at 11 o'clock in the morning.
Amen.
I mean,
Correct.
there was this sense of this, this contentment of just being average or just going with the flow. College students, listen, we have wonderful colleges and great educational system here. But one thing that I think we don't teach our college students nowadays is that this is just part one.
Yeah.
This is the first act.
Yeah.
People think I'm coming out of college.
Right.
Where's my high paying job and my lifestyle? I was like, wait. Now you have to go to work.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? You're gonna learn. And we all were like that.
Yeah.
I remember being a cocky lawyer when I first got out of law school. I thought I was it.
Yeah,
I was like, oh yeah, I'm.
But I
here
feel
I
like-
am. I was full of myself.
Yeah, Steve, but I feel like
Oh, I got the bubble got burst quick.
You got humbled
realized
real quick.
Oh yeah, well that's true too. But I feel like my generation and your generation kind of understood that you have to work yourself up.
Yeah.
Well, we did it because our parents, were on it.
Yeah.
I think I was with some friends of ours, me and my wife, and we were with some other couples who were friends with, and I was like, "What have we done to our kids?" Because we were all like, and we're all like, it was a group of like first generation. Like,
Yeah.
we're all like, we're talking about like our parents and our great parents and how they made us do this and they made us do that, and we were like responsible. Like I never could sleep in.
Yeah.
My dad would be like, it's 8 o'clock. You got to get up. You got
My
to.
son hates that.
They were like, you got to do this, you got to do that, and I was like, I just wanted to sleep in, and but it was a lesson. He was just teaching me,
Work ethic.
get out there, you got to get a job, you got to do this, you got to do that. There was no time a lot of responsibility. I think we have worked so hard to try to make things easier for this generation that I feel like we sometimes are harming them.
We are.
In a way.
We're taking away a little
Yeah.
bit of this helicopter parenting because we're frightened to death of what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be the first one. You just get so freaked out because I guess those dangers were there in our day. We just didn't know about it.
Yeah.
Now you're scared to send your kids to school. You're scared to send them away. You're scared to put them on the highway. You're scared.
That is part of it too, Steve.
You are. Listen, I will tell you as a parent. You're a parent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both parents.
Yeah.
The fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fear is with you 24/7.
Yeah.
And that's the worst part. And I'm sure our parents had that, but there was more of maybe not being able to communicate with your kid 24/7. Like if they don't respond to a text, something's wrong.
Yeah.
I remember we didn't have cell phones. They didn't. I was at school and
Yeah.
ignorance was bliss.
Yeah.
My father said he used to sleep well at night when I was away at college because he just didn't know.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know what you were doing, but I
Yeah.
didn't. I didn't
Yeah.
worry because you weren't.
If you weren't calling, you were fine.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know,
So-
Steve, two things for me in that regard is one, my faith, right?
Right.
I give it to God. I put it in his hands because I firm believe that life and death is in his hands. If I die tomorrow, it's, it was all planned out, And two is in regards to like our kids, us trying to make our kids' life a little bit easier. It's true, right? Because I remember how I grew up is like my parents made sure that I was aware of what the sacrifices, the things that they had to do to get us here, to put us to school, to even bring us to this country, right? And my goal was to not let my daughter know what struggle is, but I realized that it's a balance. They need a little bit of struggle. It's like I seen a video where this wealthy person was talking about his kids. He was like, I told my kids that I'm rich. They're not rich, so that way they don't feel entitled.
Right.
So I think
that's
there's a
brilliant.
balance,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just think it's important to kind of remind them, like,
Well,
I'm
like,
rich. You're not rich.
My dad would say, "This is my house. You're a guest.
Yes. Yes.
You're a permanent
Nothing
guest
new
here."
under the sun.
Yeah. Nothing new.
But I think sometimes I think we try to make it. I don't know. Sometimes shielding the kids is such a good idea. They should realize that there are struggles in life.
Yeah.
And they need to know the past. They need to appreciate.
Yeah.
I mean, growing up first generation, your parents told you back where they were from, they didn't have this. Like we didn't have these.
Oh, my father made sure he reminded me. He was like, "You used to play with chicken shit back in El Salvador. Like you don't know where I took you guys out of from. So appreciate everything you have here." I'm like, hey, this is the 100 millionth time you tell me so. I'm never gonna forget it.
Yeah,
You know.
I mean, listen, it's a struggle. Each generation, I think, this is something that's going on and on over and
Yeah.
over. And I think it's the next generation always has to. Do they really understand the generation before, and does the generation really understand the new generation? I think there's always going to be that complex relationship between the two.
Yeah.
But the reality is, I think responsibility is important for the kids, and they don't. I think nowadays, the helicopter parenting, which
Yeah.
all of us are guilty of, because we wanted to make it so easy for them. Sometimes I learned from the hard work. I learned from the mistakes. You know what I mean? And so I think that this is something that society is going through.
Yeah.
And I think it's cyclical. So what do they say? Like I can't remember the term, but it was like a tough generation breeds a weak generation.
So
it
it's
goes
good,
through,
so
and then
So it's good. I think
realize-
it's tough times breed strong men, and good times breed weak men or something like that.
I heard another thing the other day
Yeah.
from a
Yeah.
client that
It's around it's something like that though.
a rough seas make for a seasoned sailor. I love that.
Yeah.
Because it was like, because I say this to realtors now because the transactions are sometimes tough. And I go, a rough seas makes for a seasoned sailor.
Yeah.
If everything's easy,
Yeah.
Yeah, how are you gonna be a good sailor?
yeah.
Yeah.
And don't forget, part of what makes us happy in life is overcoming and getting something done.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's achieving something,
Yes.
even if it's on a daily basis.
Yeah. I think you need some level of struggle in your life, to kind of to keep improving. Because if everything just seems so easy to you, like the biggest things you learn are from failures,
You're gonna
like
get bored.
yeah.
You're not going to
You
feel
get
like you
comfortable,
achieve anything.
complacent.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
That's the word.
You always hear about these kids from ultra wealthy families who have been like trust funds, who are the ones that are messed up on drugs and have issues and are miserable. And
Yeah.
you think, why? And it was like, well, clearly because they have no purpose in the life. Sometimes having a purpose. Listen, you need a reason to get out of bed in the morning.
Facts.
That's what I put. Yes, to the purpose. Like
You know.
because you can be motivated, right?
Bars.
But motivation goes away.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It has to be purpose. Purpose is the only thing that's going to carry you through tough times.
You know who Ted Leonsis is, obviously.
Yeah.
Ted Leonsis has a book that he published many years ago, and I went to a lecture that he gave. And, hugely successful guy, but it was called The Pursuit of Happiness. And, he made a fortune, right? And he said after he made his first, 100 million, I'd be like thinking, oh. He said he went through a lull, where he, felt a little empty. It was like the struggle and the building the business was part of the achieving it. And then now what?
Now what? Yeah.
What's my next step? And he, they asked him what was his best memory of his life, and you'd think he would say this achievement. And it was years ago when his dad, I forgot which team, I think it was the New York Giants, won the Super Bowl, and his dad took him into the city to the parade as a kid, and that was his happiest. I could be getting it wrong, but it was something like that. That was his happiest moment. So it's really interesting to kind of view what fulfills us.
What makes people tick, right?
What makes us tick?
Imagine that's his happiest moment in his life, and now he owns sports.
I feel like
does.
a lot of people have a false sense of fulfillment, right? Like when I make this amount of money, I'll be happy. When I achieve this, and then when they achieve it, they find themselves in that spot, like you said, like, what now?
Well, we also are suffering from what I call this social media complex.
Yes.
I remember having a talk with my sister one day, and she's like, Facebook is depressing me. I was like, yeah, I can't. I mean, we still do Facebook. You guys are Instagram, TikTok. But there's all this influencing and this and that. And I thought, is this person really that happy? I think sometimes it can make you feel, you always watch, it looks like you look like you're missing the party.
It's the highlights. Steve.
Yeah.
You're like, it's FOMO.
Yeah.
It's all it's all a facade,
It's
Steve.
a facade of all these people, that go all these places, and they just present themselves, and it sounds like, I think it's kind of hitting our society really hard, and it can make you feel horrible. You're like, everyone seems like they're having so much fun. Why am I? I don't really know if they are or not.
Yeah, it's just
There's
like
no life
I have a
that's better
perfect
than
example.
yours.
I have a perfect example of this, Steve, related to real estate that Renee loves to always say. we go on social media. We see all these social media
God.
realtors.
Yes.
That look like they're crushing it.
Yeah.
And
Killing it.
Look up their
Renee's
numbers.
favorite thing is he goes.
I look
he
up
goes
the
to
numbers,
look up
baby.
the numbers.
I'm gonna look you up.
He looks up the number. He sends me a screenshot. He's like, "Look at this." And I'm just like,
man. No, but everybody's.
Wow.
I'm not. You know, do your thing.
No,
like,
I
you know,
think
do,
it-
do
oh
your
yeah,
thing. Do
yeah.
your thing.
There's no
yourself.
hate.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
just
no,
saying,
no,
like,
I'm not hating. You know what I
Promote
mean?
yourself, but don't let it. Sometimes it makes other agents. Oh man, look at them. They're just. I'm like, well, look up their numbers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It might not
So-
be. The grass is not. Is
Yeah.
always greener. You know
So,
what I mean?
so to me, it's not them doing it because I get it. Like,
Yeah.
you know, that's the reason I'm doing this podcast. Like, I get it, right?
Yeah.
So it's not that. To me, what kills me is the perception
Yeah.
from the outside.
right.
yeah.
Perception's reality.
Like I sent him the most recent one. A buddy of mine sends me a reel or a video of this realtor that posted a house in this area or whatever, right? And it was a good post, controversial, smart, right? But he sends it to me and he says, Renee, these are the kind of videos you should do. This guy is killing it in real estate. I said, really? Let me look it up.
You're like,
not killing it in real estate, buddy. Like, you know what I mean? If he's killing it, then I'm Thanos.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. So it's that bothers me. It's just like people are so quick to eat it up. That's the part that I'm just like,
That's what's happened, I think, with this world of social media. Listen, there's some great things about social media, and great to get a platform and like podcast. Like we're able to talk about things and issues, and social media. You can address things. You could promote yourself. You can.
Yeah, I love
some
it.
people have done very well.
Yeah.
but you still need some meat and bones behind it.
Yeah.
Need
substance.
Right. You need some substance there. And I think, sometimes there's a few of these agents who are just obsessed with, there's one guy in, we're not going to give names.
no name dropping.
Is,
No name dropping.
This is.
Don't dox him, Steve.
No, but there's one and a couple people that have posted, and I'm thinking, oh man, again, and it wasn't necessarily a post that, it was just goofy. It's like, it's I get it, I mean, I think it's a great way. Like we promote it we have a KTL Instagram.
Yeah.
What is it? At KTL title.
Yeah.
We promote things, but I don't want to we don't want to, saturate
Yeah.
people with it. Like every time you open up this one lender, it's like, okay, enough. Enough. Like I
That's
get
how they
it.
stay top of mind,
I
Steve.
get it. But there's a
That's how they get
point where
blocked, bro.
yeah, exactly. It's like,
No, I
we're
get it,
here.
Steve.
We're
Yeah.
get your name out there, get what you're doing.
Yeah.
Hey, look, content's a tricky thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's why some people go viral, some people don't.
I think Steve's
content's
right
a
though.
tricky thing.
It's perception is reality for a
Correct.
lot of people,
Yeah.
right? We're behind the scenes, so we know what it really is. We can find out whether you're really crushing it or not.
Yeah.
But for people who they surface level, they go to your page, they see that you're consistent, they see that you have a decent amount of following. They're gonna think you're a hell of a realtor.
Yeah.
That's just the reality.
But when you get them is when you have that meeting with them,
Yeah.
and you've done your homework.
Yep.
And you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like people will call and they, listen, I've been in this business now 22 years, and I think consistently what we really try to do is just give good service, but be able to be a resource for people.
Yeah.
People
That's
call me and they have questions, and I'll answer the questions. And somebody said to me, "You take calls on weekends?" And I was like, "There's no 9 to 5 anymore."
It's real estate, bud.
I go, "I'm not one of these people that's like, I'm sorry, it's 5 o'clock, I can't talk to you."
Yeah.
Your real estate, and I think we had Renee called me one Saturday. He was, "I'm sorry to bother you." I'm like, no. And he had a question. But that question I remember was about an estate or something. It was something that if he got that answer, he was able to get that deal.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which meant we got the deal. So it's like it's a
Exactly.
two-way street. Listen, I think that's the reality of
Yeah.
situation and stuff like that. You have to be, there's no such thing. I mean, we're living in a time where everything's instant.
Yeah.
It used to be the old generation. They would leave the office at 5 or 6 o'clock, and they didn't come back to work till the next morning, and there was no way to communicate.
Yeah.
Now,
Email.
I get email, I get texts. Got all hours. I wake up in the first.
They probably have a bat signal for Steve over there at KTL.
The other thing is when I would go on vacation. Let's say I would be in Greece or something in the old days, I couldn't take like myself like this. Now I have my cell phone, everything, and I'm literally plugged in, laptop,
Yeah.
everything, and I'm like and it's just easier for me to get on. Even when I'm on vacation, I still will work a few hours a day, just because honestly, it makes it easier than coming back to a
Yeah,
a mess.
I kind of feel that, and I can see how that will work. I mean, I can only imagine like after the podcast is over, how many missed calls, how many texts, how many fires you got to go put out.
I know. Sometimes I said, I said to someone, I go, I sometimes I don't feel like I'm an attorney. I feel like I'm an air traffic controller trying to keep all the lanes. You know, and
That's a good way to put it.
yeah, it's one of those things that this is the real world. Yeah, I mean, this is how it is now. I mean, I remember being in Italy like a year ago, and the phone ringing, and I had a major problem, and I had to leave the restaurant, and I said to my family, "Give me a few minutes," and but we solved it. You know, if I waited another 2 weeks before I got back. You know, just. And some people just need to hear your voice.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, sometimes, like I said, I'm just calming people down half the time.
Yeah.
And saying, look, it's going to be okay.
Yeah, there's people just want to hear. I'm on it. You know.
So you know, part
getting worked
therapist, part
Relief.
fireman, air traffic control. I mean, they're all the different hats we wear.
I appreciate Steve, man, because Steve, you know, I've done my share of settlements now, and you know, the person that's there sometimes. They're just kind of there to do their job, and I get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then there's people like Steve that they make these people feel like like safe.
Yeah.
You know, he makes them feel okay. Look, this is it. This is the settlement.
Yeah.
But this is a good thing. You know what I mean? Because some people come with the anxiety. You know, the nerves, and obviously we understand. Right?
I can see that. I always say, I see the body language.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
They walk and they sit down.
Yeah.
And then I see as they leave. And it's completely different. Like I'll offer them something to do. You've been to my office.
Yeah.
We've done closings. I'm like, would you like a water or coffee or something? No.
I'm good.
And they're all like nervous, and we go through it. And I said, look, let's go. I always say, you heard, los números no mientan.
Yeah.
Numbers don't lie. I say in Spanish. And we go through that. And I said, let's just go through everything, and then make sure you understand what you're doing today. Because if not, it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
You know, I've had someone came to me. They settled someplace. And the person showed up and hadn't signed a bunch of docs without explaining anything.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And I said, look, you're doing a disservice.
Yeah.
You know, first of all, you're obliged as your position to actually explain something, whether they understood things or not. I mean, I get that. But, you know, I said, I want you to leave today feeling comfortable. Because then I know I did my job. If you leave and you're, because you're right, the anxiety, the stress, it used to be like anyone really could get a mortgage. Now it's like, they go through hell and high water to get there. I mean, they've been through. I joke around. I said, the next thing they're gonna do is blood tests.
Yeah,
DNA testing.
Some people can't even believe they're there.
Get mortgage. You know, it's really tough. And I said, I realize there have been a lot of, and you probably had 50 million phone calls. Your lender needed this, and they needed that. So people come to the table and they're physically and emotionally drained.
Yeah, most of the time. Yeah.
You know, and the thing is, I'm like, okay, guys, we're here.
It's happy time.
Yeah.
Let's
Once you hand them the keys and
take a breath. We're gonna be okay. We're here now.
Yeah.
You know, take a moment, and that's a good thing. Make them feel safe.
Yeah. You make. I'm telling you how I feel. You know, when Steve's there, and then everybody feels safe. Okay, we're in a good space here, right? And then and you got to understand too, Steve, the dynamic of we predominantly work with Hispanic buyers, and they're about to basically sign their life away. You know what I mean? It'd be nice if someone explained it to me. You know what I mean? Or at least you went over this paragraph. What does this mean? Why am I doing this? And that's what I like about Steve, because he takes his time and en español, you know what I mean? And I love that part, when he catches them, and then they're like, oh. So at first, he'll say a word or two, like right now he said, los números no mienten, right? And that, it's just the levels of it, right? The emotions they go through. So it's like, oh, that's cute, you know what I'm saying? Oh, a couple words, that's cute, you know what I mean? They don't know him, right? Just from what he's, showing them there. And then it'll be like, hey, Renee, what was that? And I go, Steve, what was that? And then Steve speaks Spanish, and then they go, oh, it's serious. Like this guy really speaks Spanish.
It's not one of those lawyers doing those ads for car accidents. Hablo tu idioma.
Yeah, hablo tu
American
idioma.
accent. I started speaking with them, and they're like, oh, you really speak Spanish?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. And then it's funny when I have a couple of those closings, they'll be like, the parent is from El Salvador. Let's say the kid was born here, so I do it in Spanglish. I like, 'cause the kid's like, I want English, I want Spanish. And they're like, the kid's like, your Spanish is better than my parents, or than mine. And then I had to be careful though after living in Spain. because as you guys know, the Spanish language,
Yeah.
there's a lot of terms that we use in Spain.
Yeah.
They use, I'm acting like I'm Spanish, right? That they use in Spain that are common that in Latin America are really bad things to say. Like, so you have to be really careful between the
For example.
those words really shouldn't come.
Yeah, that's top there
They
right there.
just have these expressions.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I'm like, you can't say that.
Yeah.
No, but
you're
him-
like telling someone,
No, knowing the little nuances sometimes though, because he'll say, they'll say, ¿de qué país es usted? And then they'll say, soy de Salvador. And then, ¿y de qué parte? Right? And then they look at him a certain way, like, what would you know? Right? And
San Miguel,
they go,
Yes,
San Miguel.
yes.
And then he goes, oh, Garroero. And then they go like, the shock on their face, like, how does this guy know?
And that was my studies. I studied like Latin American affairs and international affairs. So part of it, that's I think what I really enjoy working with people from different countries is because having studied that, I was like, tell me your story. It's always interesting to hear what they have to say, and I want them to also feel proud of what they've done.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not easy.
Yeah.
To have achieved the things that they've achieved. I mean, there's a lot of people walk in to buy a house, they've done some hard work.
Yeah.
See, and that's
And
cool.
you guys have too.
Yeah,
'Cause
of
you've
course,
been
of
agents.
course.
You've
No, but it's cool that Steve appreciates that because at the end of the day, think about his job. It's just close another one, close another. So you can understand.
you can feel like a factory.
Yeah, that could become like mundane.
Yeah.
So and that's what I'm saying. I've been at tables where maybe I'm the 6 o'clock settlement that they pushed from 4 o'clock, and this person has done. This is their 5th settlement today. They're tired, bro. You know what I mean? And they're looking at the same paperwork almost.
Yeah.
So it's like by the time they get to the 5 o'clock one, they're like, yeah, okay, yeah, sign. Like I get it. You know what I mean? So that's why I
Get a money
appreciate Steve
fetcher.
because of the energy he brings to each one. You know what I mean? And yeah. So
Listen, if you don't go in there feeling good about it, it's going to be a miserable experience for everyone.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, there's days I walk in and I don't feel like really doing this. I mean, everyone has
of
those
course,
days at work.
yeah.
And but again, it's not about me. It's you have to
Purpose.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing is also with the sellers. Take their time. A lot of title companies, because let's be realistic, even though you're neutral, you get the deal from the buyer side, and so some companies tend to like not really pay attention to this. I think the sellers are just as important.
Yeah.
They're going through a lot too. I mean, sometimes they're selling their house for the first time in their life. There's a lot of things that go. There's a lot of emotions in selling a house.
Yeah.
That I mean,
very emotional.
Listen, there have been times I have some tissue box that I bring to the table. I've seen kids sell their parents' house after they passed away, and one selling their childhood home. It's emotional.
Yeah.
And we all been there, and I just try to say we've been there.
Yeah.
Some people have to. If you don't have compassion in our business, you need it. You're missing
A
something.
compassionate attorney.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that's another oxymoron, right?
Well,
I mean, I do like the attorney.
Yeah.
Voice, but,
Well, look, guys, we're a little bit over an hour, so
Go. Time flies. We having fun.
time
huh?
flies.
Now we appreciate you, Steve,
yes.
coming by.
This was a lot of fun.
sharing your life story with us.
Won't
and,
be the last time. This is part 1. Stay tuned for part 2.
we'll go into some real meaty topics.
Yeah.
Hey, Steve, real quick before I let you go, I saw that it wasn't on your page. I can't remember what realtor, but someone was promoting. You're going to be like on a panel or something.
Yeah,
like
so
that?
I was asked to. My life's full. I was asked to be on a panel, a home buying seminar, and I get this all the time. And they wanted an attorney who speaks Spanish because a lot of the investors, they're mostly Latino investors.
Yeah.
To talk about legality, to talk about title and to talk about what they can do. And so there's a whole list of it. And so I was asked to join them with a few other people I knew. And it's going to be, I think, a week from Saturday.
That's awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, my part's only going to be like half hour to an hour. I do a lot of that. I think that's an important thing. I think we've done a little bit of the education work. I like giving this educational because I think people need to know these things.
Yeah, that's awesome. People understand nobody's paying you to be there. Like, you know what I mean? It's like you're doing it really just to help the community and stuff like that. And we appreciate it.
Karma is, I believe in karma. I think you need to put out, I think, a phrase from I learned this many years ago, and I really try to adhere to it, especially being first generation kid that's born here. Do you guys remember Michael Dukakis, who ran for president? He lost back in like '88.
I remember that name.
He was Greek American. His son of a Greek immigrant, and his father had was a doctor or whatever, put him through school. I think he went to Harvard and everything. And his term was, he goes, much is given, much is expected. So, I've had that gift of being able to have been born here and had the gift of the parental support. And I said, then I have an obligation to give back.
That's awesome.
That's good.
It's because that's really, really important.
Yeah, it's so
and then I hope that the kids of my clients do the same thing. I say, I want you to do the same thing that I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, to wrap it up, Steve, please shout out KTL. Tell the people
KTL title,
where,
man.
KTL title. Tell them where you have offices, how they can get in
KTL
contact with you.
Sure. We're on Instagram, Facebook. We're on Yellow Page. Google say, we're located in Beltsville and also in Fairfax, Virginia, with a satellite offices in Greenbelt, Glen Burnie, and at the Rio in Gaithersburg.
Okay.
Nice.
Well,
y lo atienden en español también, ¿verdad?
Claro.
Steve?
Sí. Todos son bilingüe.
Ahí estamos.
hey, there you go. Well, guys, it was a phenomenal episode.
Yes, man.
It was amazing. Thank you, Steve, again for coming
Thank
through.
you for having me.
And for anybody that's watched the whole episode, please always don't forget to subscribe, and drop us a comment. What was your favorite part of the episode? What was your biggest takeaways? We will see you guys in the next episode.
See you in the next one.